folks. We're going to go ahead and get started. We've still got some people coming in. And first of all, I want to introduce myself. I'm Mike Anderson. I'm the Parks and Recreation Director for Forsyth County. I would like to say how much we appreciate your time tonight, how much we appreciate you being here. It's very valuable to us, and we greatly appreciate you being here. If I can have just a quick show of hands, who was at the first meeting that's here? Okay, all right. Glad you came back. So we did the setup a little bit different, so hopefully people can hear it this one a little bit better. So thank you for coming back, and we appreciate that. So just a couple of things, and then I'm going to turn it over to our Deputy County Manager. So just a couple of things I want to mention. What we're going to do tonight is we are going to, what we'd like to have you do is give us any comments or questions or concerns that you may have on the project. And what we're going to ask you to do, if you'd like to speak, come up to this microphone so everyone can hear you. We're going to be taking notes also, so we make sure we record all these comments. So if you would do that, and in the first go around, if you could just limit your comments to just a couple minutes. If you've got a long conversation that you need to have with one of us, please hang around afterwards and we can have a more detailed conversation. But if you could limit it to a couple minutes so we give everybody a chance to speak, and then you could always come back up again after everybody's had a chance. And then also we just would ask too, if somebody makes a comment you don't like, if we just be respectful of each other and just just don't comment on their comments. We're taking notes on their various comments. We value everybody's opinion, so we just ask you to be respectful for that if you would. So with that said, we're going to go ahead and get started. I'm going to introduce the Deputy County Manager, Damon Sanders-Pratt.
Good evening again to everybody, and thank you for those who are coming back, and for those it's your first time coming. So what I'm going to say a little bit, you will have heard if you were already here, but I kind of want to just preface why we're here and what we're doing. So this 186-acre property that the county has, we acquired it. It was going to be part of a joint firearms training facility with the city of Winston-Salem. And then when the plans changed, and that actual firing range was relocated to off the Liberty Street corridor, and then the fire training facility was located near King, some of you might be familiar with. This property is part of that whole project. Paying for that, the city kept some of their cash and gave us their equivalent for this property that's located. So now we don't have half of the rolling this property, we own all of it. So they gave us their interest. So we've had it since then. It's about 2014 that we actually owned it outright. In 2016, during the commissioner's budget presentation, one of the ideas that they were discussing was a multi-use agricultural event center. But they weren't sure where to put it, although there was some talk about Tanglewood because of the equestrian history there. There was that discussion. So then when the 2016 bond referendum took place, an item was added on the referendum to let voters determine whether or not they were interested in a multi-use agricultural event center. And so they did list that. Now the title of it was not very descriptive. It was Parks and Recreation Facilities Bond. But all the discussion leading up to that referendum was actually about a multi-use agricultural event center. So it passed with a 71% in favor of it. It's another example of a referendum question that's not terribly descriptive. So there's a sales tax that was used to fund teacher supplements, which you may be familiar with and read about in the paper. But that had a name that was very undescriptive as well, and it was called Forsyth County Local Sales and Use Tax. Didn't say anything about teacher supplements, but that's what it was, so that's the whole conversation leading up to it. So I just say that to say that this particular issue was also kind of had an undescriptive title. That's really just by state law that it had to say that. So it passed with 71%. So as you undoubtedly read about or saw in the news, that the first place that we went, we talked, it was at Tanglewood, and there was opposition to that, and because of the feedback, significant feedback, way more than support, we have dropped back and looked at the site here, which also offers some things that Tanglewood doesn't. Now, Tanglewood did have some favorables for that, where that it already has an event infrastructure there, so we already have staff there to do that. If it's going to be equestrian focused, then you already have stables there and so forth. So we already have staff that's there, and they always have roads there and so forth. So here, we have the site, we've actually bought land where we have access off of Doral Drive, which would be a pretty lengthy stacking area, so we wouldn't back cars up onto the road and all that kind of thing. So we kind of drop back and are looking in this area where there's not really a similar type facility at all. Now the county, we have 9 parks, and so they're not city parks. They're generally larger. They probably range from about the size of this one, which is like CG Hill. We have a smaller one where it's like for portage for canoes, 421 River Park. And then our larger parks, you're familiar with, would be like Tanglewood, which is kind of a one of a kind that we inherited, and so we continue to run. And then Triad Park, which is actually in Guilford County, but we have an arrangement with them. We run both of them. And then in Acreage, Horizons Park is probably another one of our larger parks, which is also rather passive. So most of our parks are passive. The one that's probably the most active per acre is maybe Union Cross Park, which was an old Air Force base, or what do you call it? Radar station. And so that was probably our least passive. But this would be more of a kind of a passive park as well. So what we wanted to do tonight, similar to the last time, is to get your input that we could then go back to the commissioners with feedback about thoughts on the project generally, thoughts on what could be at a passive park like this one. You've already read about ideas about riding rings, and we would relocate our cooperative extension staff that does 4-H programs for youth and gardening and livestock and all that kind of thing. Those employees would come from the Fairchild location, which is basically downtown Liberty Street, to this area as well. So that would kind of be our infrastructure for events that would occur here. So before we open up for questions, I want to recognize, I guess you have a couple council members here. So I see Laura Shore-Smith. I saw Boyce Shore here earlier. I saw Mary Marion was here. And have I missed anybody that's here? Maybe Mark Baker, maybe remote. So I'll let our county staff also introduce themselves so you know who's here. So again, I'm David Sanders, Pratt, the Deputy County Manager. And we're going to have to all run up the mic, but you just kind of pick up and say who you are.
I'm Chris Weevil. I'm the Assistant Director of Park and Recreation, Forsyth County.
Mike Anderson, the Director of Parks and Recreation.
I'm Kim Presley. I'm the Director of North Carolina Cooperative Extension.
I'm James Anderson, Construction Manager for the county.
Good evening, Dan Rankin. I work at the City County Planning Office.
I'm April Bowman. I am one of our 2 4-H agents and also the Livestock and Forages agent for Cooperative Extension.
And another agent, Phyllis Smith, who's not there. We're actually logging you in. And I saw the manager was here a little while ago, all the way in the back there, still Watts. And so we're really here to kind of hear from you around the room. You'll see on these pieces of paper here where some comments kind of boil down to what we heard the last time we were here. And then there's also a conceptual rendering of the site, and then the northern part in particular, and kind of blobs of where things would be, but it's not really planned, because we wouldn't spend the money to hire an architect to plan it if it's not here. So we're trying to get to the point of, do we want to be here or not, right? So we wouldn't pay $100,000 to plan a thing that we're not sure it's going to be here. So anyway, with that, if you are interested to come and speak, please come up to the mic, and we will be recording what you said and trying to answer any questions you might have. And there's also some questions I think you picked up, also that we heard the last time we were here a couple weeks ago, with some responses as well. So with that, I'll open it up for whoever wants to say it.
I noticed that the question was asked last time, what type of events will be held, and it says, the same types of events that are held at Forsyth County Parks and hosted by North Carolina Cooperative Extension. I don't know what those are, so can you elaborate on that?
Sure. So at most of our county parks, like this one would be, say from Triad to Horizons to, well, not really 421 River Park, Tanglewood for the most part. It's going to be reunions, there'll be shelter use. Then we've had craft fairs. Cooperative Extension has had livestock shows, car shows, we've had Airstream shows,
4-H talent shows.
4-H talent shows, so things like that. We don't actually, there's very few events that the county puts on. We really lease facilities. So other than the Festival of Lights, We used to do 4th of July, now we don't. And golf events, which we also mostly lease the facility, but generally people run their own events. This would be similar to that. We'd have the space available, but they would run their own events.
So I noticed in hours of operation, we have hours of operation, right, but then there's a rider in there that says we can change the hours of operation for special events. That's a concern, right? Because I don't know, are you gonna hold a rodeo over here and let it go until midnight? Like that's a concern.
Well, I would say no. So it wouldn't run until midnight if there was a rodeo. The hours are generally by like daylight savings time, so it's really kind of dusk to dawn. So that's why you see that variation in time. So during the winter, it's shorter, and then in the spring and summer, it's longer. But we try to be sensitive to the neighborhoods, and we try to be good neighbors.
Thank you.
I'm Mark O'Neill. I'm a resident. I live here about a mile from here. I had a couple questions. One, is the funding to build the facilities going to come from the county taxes, I'm assuming?
So a bond referendum passed in 2016. That was $5 million when it started. And then the things that you see described are really, if it was built out right away, but it won't be. It would be phased over time. But the initial funding to start a park would be the $5 million from the bond referendum.
Okay. Once the bond money is spent, then will there be any liability or any cause for our tax dollars to help support this effort?
So operationally, yes. So the operation would be from revenues received from people having events there, and then it'll be subsidized for the difference. So like most county parks.
Right.
You know, other than like a Disney World or a Busch Gardens or something like that, that actually is designed to make money. A passive park is really just for recreation for the community. So it's not actually going to turn a profit, but it would be subsidized by events as well.
Okay. Well, that was a concern because Forsyth County is already in the top 25% of the highest tax rates in North Carolina. You know, that's an issue to me. Okay. Next thing, how will this affect the property values of the homes? Your map just shows this area where there's nothing built, and mainly because there's no revenue. I mean, there's not been much built there because of the railroad. You know, that's a bad piece of property if somebody builds to try to sell a house on. But if you expand your map out, then we're a pretty heavily populated bedroom community here. And I was curious, you know, how this might affect our property values.
Well, so I'm not a realtor. However, I did talk to the the planning director, and kind of asked him that question because I know that came up the last time. And so, you know, he said there are studies that indicate that's not the case, that it wouldn't negatively impact property values. Again, it's a passive park, so it's going to be a fair amount of open space. You know, what we've experienced at, say, at Tanglewood, for example, or a Triad Park, is that people build around the park because they know that's an established use. It's probably not going to change. It's not going to be a general dollar store. It's not going to be a liquor store. It's going to be a park. And so people feel comfortable with that and actually put in gates to our fence so they can access the park.
Well, then another question is why did Tanglewood refuse to do it? Why do they oppose it?
Well, comments that we heard were that where the line was where this building would be was relatively close to a neighborhood there, Clemens West. Now, I didn't think it was that close, but people felt like it was very close. You know, with the Festival of Lights traffic was a concern. This had nothing to do with Festival of Lights, but there's been a traffic issue there. And what really happens at Festival of Lights is that we close the park at 5 o'clock. So then it's closed, everybody has to leave the park, then the cars stack up. Basically, there's a short stacking area. So they end up stacking up outside the park, sometimes to the highway, until we open up again, then they can come in. That wouldn't happen here. There wouldn't be a Festival of Lights here. People thought it would change the character of where their horse barns are. So they didn't, people that own horses didn't want to change what was there. So some things just off the top of my head that I remember.
Oh, one of the other questions, I was in the horse business for 20 years. I was on the board of directors for one of the major horse registries for 6 years. And we showed horses across the country with trainers and my wife and I both showed horses. So I got a little understanding of how a horse show goes. And then we've done a whole lot of shows that went into the wee hours of the morning because it was based on how many animals showed up to be shown. So that was one of the concerns I had, because I live very close. You know, there's a subdivision, you can see where it says Serenity Ridge Lane right there. That's pretty close to the facility. You know, so that was kind of a concern. Late night, a lot of outside lights for the arenas, and, you know, there's something, that was a concern I had. How would that be handled? If that becomes a problem, how can you eliminate that, or would you?
So we, you know, we're writing these things down, so that when we actually design a facility, you know, at the library, for instance, you know, there are like lights that can be focused down versus that spill out, which are more of a problem like nighttime, people like dark sky. So we can design it accordingly. So if that's a concern, you know, we can note that to whoever designs it.
Okay.
Which is kind of over here. We hear people.
I mean, I have an interest in a facility, but I'm not sure that where you're wanting to place it because of the bedroom community and as many homes as there are and impact of traffic and all the negative things that you can think of. You know, I don't think that it would be the ideal location to put this facility. But, you know, I don't have, y'all don't listen to much of what I got to say except for now. So I'm only one vote. But I mean, I feel like I trust the county to do the right thing. So I'm hoping that maybe you can come up with some answers that would satisfy everybody. I know that's impossible too, so. But, you know, it wouldn't hurt my feelings if you moved it to Tanglewood, because it looks like to me they would have a better access for it, because they already have the barns, they already have the steeplechase. It's a perfect location, and it's sort of odd that they would refuse it. But anyway, that's all I have to say. I didn't mean to take up so much of your time. Thank you.
Hey,
Hello.
there's been a lot of talk about horse shows going into the wee hours of the morning. I'm Rebecca May, and my husband and I own Jeremy May Show Horses in Tobaccoville. Guys, I'm very passionate about horses, but it will not go into the wee hours of the morning.
Well, they do.
I'm sorry, sir. Wait, please let me talk. No one interrupted you.
You did.
After you got done.
Well, if you just address me, it'd be fine. Just
But we are not having, this facility is not gonna be a facility where you're gonna have wee hours of the morning horse shows, from what I'm understanding. Now, if you have, because somebody even made a comment last time we were here, of 2,000 cars. No, whenever you have 2,000 cars, you're at a world show or the Congress or something like that. This is going to benefit the youth of the community, and to have so much negativity on this is sad. All it comes down to is money, is what I'm hearing. And I have a 4-H program, you can ask April, I've been doing it, and these kids are craving this. And people have asked me if it was going to negatively impact our business. We have a 40-stall barn with, my husband has 25, 30 horses in training. All it would do was benefit us instead of taking our money elsewhere to bring kids over here to have an open horse show or a cow show. Or I don't think that the rodeos last either until midnight. They try to have a cap on them. Junior rodeos do and all that stuff. I don't know if they're going to do that here or not. But I really feel that the county needs this, and Tobaccoville needs this. Because, and Cooperative Extension needs a safe place to go to work every day. Because in 1991, as a 6-year-old girl going with my mom to Fairchild Drive was scary. Now I will not take my daughter there. I will not. And for y'all to not be okay with these people trying to get there, get them safe, that's sad. Sad.
Thank you. And it will be a modest facility. It won't, you know, there's some larger equestrian facilities in the state. This won't be one of them.
I would like to give this young lady a great acclamation. If this facility was only being built for horses, or either horse shows or whatever, that would be perfect. But you are building a multicultural use agricultural center, event center. And it's gonna be used by the entire county of Forsyth County. I thank you, young lady, for protecting the horses, because when I first moved up in Tobaccoville over 35 years ago, it was such a pleasure to see people riding horses along the pathway and everything. You don't see that anymore. You could go to the stables and ride horses. You don't see that anymore. But as far as a multicultural use event center, it'll be all kind of unclean stuff coming up into Tobaccoville. That's what's wrong with North Carolina as a whole now. That's why so much gun violence, so much uncleanness going on in the state of in the city of Winston-Salem alone. That's known, Kernersville and Clemens, and every day it's a shooting going on. And I know we're not expecting that by building this multicultural center, but it's gonna happen. Tobaccoville is a beautiful, small, little, quaint city, quiet. We don't need this multicultural center. There are so many other places that you guys can take it to. And I'm just curious, why did you choose Tobaccoville in the beginning?
Say why didn't we?
Yeah, why did y'all, the county, choose Tobaccoville?
Well, so we own this tract. It's open space, and it's not another center like it here in this area. And we looked at Thankwood because of that infrastructure that's already there.
Right.
But we're also looking at properties that we own. And so this is one that we own, that we've been able to get a good access to. It's not the largest part, but we can feel like move things closer away from the line there, so there'd be an opportunity to have some separation. As far as the safety of it, to that I would just say, look at our other county parks. These are not, highly developed parks with active recreation there. They're pretty passive parks. I say look at Tobaccoville and Triad and Horizon and even Tanglewood. You don't really see that. So I understand the concern, but our way of operating the park and how we take care of the park, it's just not been our experience.
And thank you for bringing up Horizon Park. Horizon Park would be a beautiful place to take this facility, this multicultural. That park has gone down. It's sad how it's gone. The facility has went down like it is. Now Horizon would be a perfect place to bring in multicultural.
I think ours is pretty nice.
I didn't understand.
You think it's pretty nice, Horizon Park?
No, it needs a lot of upkeep. It needs a whole face up there. But that'll be a nice place to take this multicultural activity if you want to take it there.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good, thank you.
My name is Chris Palacini. We live about a mile up the road. We have a small farm, about 40 acres. I just wanted to comment because we're really kind of excited about the prospects of what this could be. When you drive around kind of the rural areas and you see the amount of land being reclaimed for construction, for developments, and the loss of farming and agriculture, and the loss of equestrian ability to ride and those type of uses, I don't know, it's kind of heartbreaking. And I'm really interested to know what kind of 4-H programs or what kind of equestrian programs this would kind of bring to the community, and to be a center of that and to kind of expand that knowledge and that type of kind of community-based learning into our community is really, really exciting. We've got kids that unfortunately don't go outside a lot and they don't get exposure to these type of things. So programs that are based on farming and agriculture and equestrian and other type of 4-H programs, I think would be really, really exciting. It would be something that would bring kind of a different feel to our community and would really be a plus when you're thinking of, you know, what is Tobaccoville other than a stop on 52. So thank you.
So for our next question, which I feel very comfortable with, Carolina asking.
Yeah.
Let maybe April or Kim come up and talk a little bit about 4-H program.
That's always been my life thing, I'm short, sorry. I came here 4.5 years ago to serve as the director of North Carolina Cooperative Extension. I came here from the University of Arizona, where I spent 30 years as a 4-H youth development agent, area agent, state specialist, and I served all the way up to the national level. I love 4-H, as do both of my 4-H agents, who are both here, who I'd like to call out right now. April Bowman, who works and Monique Pierce Brady back in the back there. 4-H can be anything that you want it to be for your children. It can be anything. If children have a need and they have a desire to learn something, 4-H has a vehicle, and hopefully we can find the volunteers to bring that program to life for those kids. Because it's our duty with 4-H Youth Development to make the best better every day for those children. We focus on all of our programs. We look at evaluation. We look at how are we teaching these kids belonging, independence, generosity, and mastery of skill in all of these areas. And how do we make these kids growing up here in Forsyth County the best kids that we can create for the future of our community? And the question that was brought up early on, what is North Carolina Cooperative Extension? And I just want to address that real quick. That's why I kind of jumped forward here. What our mission is with Extension is to bring forward research-based information from our universities, to bring them forward and make them usable, understandable, and doable for the people of Forsyth County in several major areas of agriculture, foods and nutrition, and 4-H youth and family development. And that's the mission that North Carolina Cooperative Extension functions under. And we create programs for that, which we have a table over here, which has some of the programs that we do. So April and I serve on this committee about this project, and her mission with her job is centered around livestock and equine programs. So she and I have a lot of conversation about that, as I was also focused on livestock in Arizona for those 30 years. And so we believe that this would be, wherever it's going to land, wherever it's going to be living, it's going to be a really great thing for our office, to where we can create outdoor learning labs and learning facilities, adventure-based challenge activities for kids to teach them those 4 pieces, no matter whether they're taking a horse program, a livestock program, gardening, which is huge here. I didn't realize that until I moved here, but we do a lot of gardening. We work with small farmers, large farmers. We work with agriculture in many different areas of the program. And so we're very proud of that work, and I hope that all of you who know what we do, that you continue to live, work, and grow with us, and those who don't know what we do, please come join us, find out what we do, and again, brochures right over here. Did you want to address anything else? So we're good.
Hello, I'm Dan Jarvis. I'm representing my wife as well, Kathy Shore Jarvis, and my daughter Lindsay Jarvis, and my in-laws who gave us the property we live on part-time on Doral Road. We're excited. We are thrilled that Forsyth County's looking at Tobaccoville to make this type of investment. This is going to enhance our community. We're an agrarian community. We're a community that loves animals, wants to have animals as part of our life. And this is gonna make it even more possible for us to raise our families this way, our grandkids this way, and be a real resource for the community. So we're 100% behind it. We see the vision that you guys see to invest in this part of the county, which has been underinvested in the past. And I just see it as an opportunity for everybody to be more engaged with what the county can do for us, and we can also benefit our friends, our families, and our neighbors. So thank you.
It's me again. I want to make plain, I'm not against having a facility at all. I got a 50-acre farm in Surrey County. And like I said, I was in the horse business for 20 years. I see the value. My wife did 4-H. We did through the agriculture over at Dobson. You know, we did a program with 4-H even on our farm. So I'm all for the kids and all this happening. It's just I think there's a better location somewhere. And one of the reasons I say that is if you decide to build it here with our county tax dollars, how many people in our county would attend it and how many from outside would attend? So I don't think we have enough in-county participation to even start the project, much less to provide funding for it going into the future. So, I mean, but that's good too, to have outside participation. But I'd just like to see it somewhere not in our back door. That's my point.
I didn't think you was against it. And we do want people's input on, if it were here, you know, what we could do to, you know, make it
Are the
feel less
taxes not
onerous.
shared within the county? It's not like just Tobaccoville is gonna be taxed.
So I hope I didn't get the impression that there would be a tax increase to run it, but what I'm saying is that the cost to run it would come out of the general fund.
Yeah, it's
So
not
there would
just
be
Tobaccoville.
already a yield every year, and, you know, whatever revenues that it generated would go back toward that.
And we all live in Forsyth County, pay for Forsyth County taxes.
We live in
Sure.
Forsyth County. Everybody here lives in Forsyth County.
Man,
My name is Jane Bodenhammer. I'm here with my husband Randy. We live in Rural Hall. We have a horse, we have a donkey, we have a 12-acre farm in Rural Hall. And we are very excited about seeing what you're wanting to bring to this area. I'm a member of the Home Extension. We have North Forsyth Home Extension Club, ECA, meets in Rural Hall. We're very proud of that. I was a member of the 4-H when I was in school, so that's very dear to my heart. But seeing what will be available to this community, it just tickles me to death. I am just so thrilled that we would be looking at some of the suggestions. It's just awesome what you're wanting to bring to us and allow us to play there. That's awesome. So we thank you very much for what you're trying to do for this community.
thank you.
I'm for this. I think it's a good thing. I do want to make sure, though, that everybody understands that Forsyth County owns this. If this particular thing doesn't come here, what possibly could? So we want to try and make sure that something other good like this comes into place and not maybe government housing or some other kind of other thing like that. So we got to be careful. We got to pick something up. This seems to be the #1 deal. So that's something to consider.
My name is Melanie Newsom, and I live inside the village of Tobaccoville. I grew up here, went away, and have come back home temporarily. But I'm excited about this. I'm not equestrian at all, but I have seen how other parks around do some recreational things that are dear to our hearts, and that's pickleball. Dedicated pickleball courts. You know, we don't have to share it with tennis players or whatever. We would love to have lights for the summertime when it's hot. people after work want to come and play. I think other places have done that, and we would love to let that be on the agenda, that's one of the other uses for this property. I don't know if there's bicycle trails, as well as if you share that with horses or not, like you do in the western North Carolina mountains, but anyway, we don't really have a safe place to ride bicycles either, so. And I know the village has had some expansion going on, but none of this was within the village of Tobaccoville's park, correct? It's
Right, it's not
two
Tobaccoville.
separate things. Thank you.
Thank you. I got a shiver when she said pickleball. It's another one of my things.
Not really a question, but just more of an observation, right? So I don't know whether to be for it or against it, because like when you say equestrian center and you say park, I'm all for it, right? But then when we talk about event center, it's really vague, and even just sitting here listening to it, like we talked about hours, then we talked about, well, maybe hours could extend, we talked about lights and where they would point, right? So I'm an executive, that's what I do, you know? Like maybe we could frame it, like define it better, I think that would help.
Right, and this is, we're having this meeting now, because we're really early. This is just a conceptual thing that our staff did, not an architect. If we decided to be here, then we would hire an architect, and they would give us actual plans, and we would tell them the feedback that we're getting on what we expect to see. But right now, we didn't want to, invest $50,000, $60,000, $80,000 in something that it doesn't happen here.
Yeah, above and beyond architecture, I think it's the use rules, right?
Yeah.
So I'm good. I'm even good with a rodeo. You know what I mean? If you tell me like, hey, the rodeo is going to end at 9:30, let's have a rodeo.
So, I'm not trying to cut you off, but to help maybe share some of what Cooperative Extension does. Right now, just this month, we are planning our 4-H talent show. It does happen in the evening because kids are in school during the day. We are planning our 4-H presentation competition where kids learn public speaking and presentation skills. Tonight, there is a community garden training going on at our facility to train community garden facilitators. Tomorrow night, there's an Extension Master Gardener training where they're training people to be certified gardeners. Today, there was an arborist training for certified arborists and forestry. We had some kind of canning and cooking program I think Virginia was working on this morning. We are doing our poultry and rabbit show on a Saturday in May. I think it starts at 9 based on the number of entries we have, which is what drives that factor. We estimate being done by 2 p.m. So, if things majorly grew, it would last longer. So some of that does depend. But for things that our office does, we're a county-owned facility. We own, so we try to do reasonable things. I know, right now, if I want to do a livestock show, I have to pay rent at another facility, and we have to sign a lease. And part of that lease is our hours and where we'll park and the noise and security and those kind of things. So I think that is something that could definitely be addressed.
Yeah, I think if we nailed down hours of operation, I'm not worried about the 4-H, quite honestly, and not to pick on any of my county members here, right? But I like, if we don't nail it down now, right, then what can happen there, what times it can happen, then over time it morphs.
Yeah, but like my poultry show, I can't stop judging the chickens until we're done judging the chickens.
Well, but I don't think you're going to be judging chickens until 11 p.m. I would hope not.
We've gone from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. on just doing cattle, and then we had to check in the chickens involved. Yeah.
So, but if we could nail it down, right? If we could put hours of operations on it, then you can plan your events across multiple days or whatever you have to do.
You can't put limitations on work with livestock. You don't understand how things can be done, work is planned. So a lot of times with livestock, especially cattle, horse shows, just run way over. You can't stand here put a limitation that shut the place down at 9:30. That's just loose.
Well, but what is a reasonable
Okay, so
time?
if I could just jump in here real quick and then I'll sit back down. The conversation about noise and duration of things came up in a conversation that we all had. And I'm very adamant about the fact that my staff need to have quiet time to work. April just listed off a very small amount of things that we do, and we do what we do for all of you and all the people that live in Forsyth County. That's why my agents work hard. Our basic hours of operation for our office is 8 to 5. And some of us get to just do that, but often we're there until 5:30 or 6 before we pull out, unless we have an evening program. Those evening programs that April just mentioned are inside a building for the most part. And when we do have things at night, and I was a livestock agent in Arizona too, and I've had horses my whole life, and I live down the street too, I'm your neighbor. So I understand your thoughts about noise and all of that, but you have to believe that we are all professionals in what we do, and we're not going to create an atmosphere of chaos and noise for all of you. I don't want it, I just live down the street too. So what the idea is that we do what we do, and we take our time. And I wanted to mention that I have a number of my staff here tonight. And so after we're all done, if you still have programmatic questions for any of them, let me tell you who they are, because some of them have quite a following in this county. You've met April. She's livestock and 4-H. Over against the wall is Phyllis Smith. Phyllis does bees, and when I came here, bats, birds, bees, and all that goes to Phyllis. Solar, she does a lot with natural resources. We have, can you stand up, Monique? Well, I just introduced Monique a little while ago, and she does 4-H youth development. That's Dr. Mo. And in front of her is Virginia Lopez. And Virginia does food and nutrition programs, which is a great help to our overall huge gardening focus. I want to introduce Susan Kelly, who's our district director with NC State, and Jeffrey Cates is in the back. He does some urban farming and assists with that, and assists with some STEM programs. Am I missing any of you? I hope not. So we're here, so afterwards, if you want to know more about what we do, and why it's important that we have a good educational area to do our programs in. And we're good at what we do. We get in there, we do it, we're done, we're out, and that's how we do it. So I just wanted to throw that in, just food for thought, because it is very important that my staff has quiet time to plan and work, collaborate, network, and do their jobs. Good?
Yeah, I mean, but just based on this conversation, I'm still just as confused as ever, because I've been told that we need to let them run unlimited.
Well,
And I don't know.
we register your concern, and I'll let the manager say a word. I'm not poo-pooing what you're saying, we've gotten it down, and we register you.
Yeah. So, good evening, I'm Dudley Watts, and get to serve as your county manager. One of my jobs is to kind of work directly with the 7 elected officials that y'all put in office. And a couple things I wanted to just mention. One, when Dan was talking, he's talking about, Forsyth County owns this property. Well, the truth of the matter is, you own this property. Yeah. So it really is our objective to figure out what this community wants on this property, and the reason why we're here tonight is really get your input and take every one of them into consideration. On issues like noise, what I can tell you, because I've served this community for 16 years, served 9 years, another one, and 3 years before that. If we have an event that disturbs this community, y'all are going to talk to my 7 county commissioners, and we will fix whatever that is. We used to do a 4-H, we used to do a fireworks show at Tanglewood. It seems like everything in Clemens, half the people liked it, half the people didn't. But clearly, that boiled down to, we stopped doing that show. And we didn't stop doing that show because it mattered to us. We stopped doing that show because it mattered to the community. And so, if this was a rezoning and we were talking about putting a business in here, I would absolutely want to know what the hours were. I think the hour's gonna be what this community wants the hours of this thing to be. And so it really is, you know, your opportunity to, if you want it here. If you do not want it here, we will go back to the drawing board and do something different. And, you know, I said that in Tanglewood. You know, it was you asked, you know, why didn't Tanglewood want it? You know,
Just
I don't know.
worried about him telling the wildlife out there that all the development is already done.
Yeah, I mean, it is more intense. I don't, you know, so.
I'm glad they didn't want it.
Yeah, right. Well, because to be honest with you, I was standing there in front of a group of mad people about it, and I was thinking, I don't know why you don't want it, but, and there were some people in the room that did, and you know, it was one of those things that really grew in a lot of misinformation about what the county's intentions were around it and all that. You know, what I left there is knowing is that the right thing happened. It didn't need to go there. This is a very different project than what we were proposing in Tanglewood. The planets have kind of lined up with the airport getting a lot of money, sort of this realization that Cooperative Extension, you know, we haven't really been able to do field trials at Fairchild because the groundwater is so contaminated there. And so the idea that we can move that out and then convert that current facility to really something that's aviation related, because there's a lot of energy around jobs in aviation in this community, and so that kind of lined up. And then some state money, you know, other state money's kind of helped that whole process. So, you know, I'm sort of a believer that the right thing happens at the right time. And, you know, if this is the right thing for the right time here, then let's do it. You know, it's got a cooperative extension element to it. It's got the multi-purpose agricultural center, which always had a connection to cooperative extension, although we really weren't talking about moving cooperative extension out to Tanglewood. The connectivity of this property is going to be much better when the Beltway gets extended. And if you think 20 years from now, you're going to be able to, Clemens is going to be a hop, skip, and a jump with that part of the Beltway. So, you know, there's just really some opportunities. And so this really is about hearing what you want. If you want it here, you know, we'll start planning. We'll move fast because we do have some dollars in hand to get started. And then it can grow it to be whatever y'all want it to be. But y'all have a voice with the 7 county commissioners. I can tell you that because that's what I do every day. And I understand there are those concerns. But and if we were doing rezoning, you're right, man. I'd want to know exactly what those hours were. But y'all got a lot of influence in what those hours are after it gets built, frankly. So that's all I got.
Thank you. That was all.
Yep.
Hi. I have a couple of issues and questions. RJ Reynolds announced they're gonna sell 186 acres to develop it into an industrial site, which is gonna bring a lot more traffic here. And it's being released now. And then you all are bringing in all kinds of events. They sound like great events, but there's gonna be people coming in, I think. Or they fly in or bring their helicopters in, I'm not sure. But, you know, our traffic isn't gonna be a problem. And you say, well, it's DOT, and you talk to DOT and they say, well, it's the village, and then it's the county. Well, I think it has to be clear, made very clear, that all of these things that are happening, that we're looking at traffic and how people are gonna get around. That's my number one concern. Number two, I'm a Yankee. I don't know a doggone thing about animals or anything like that, and I'm a city slicker.
But when you eat them. Right?
I am. But I've heard that when tracks are near animals and trains go by animals, that's one of the things that scares the daylights out of them. I have no idea in the world, but you're running that by railroad tracks, and sometimes we'll get 2 trains a day, and sometimes we'll have 4. So if you're gonna stop the trains, great. You know, but what are you gonna do about the animals? You have to think about them too.
So, sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you.
You
but
did.
The Western North Carolina Agricultural Center is next to the airport in Asheville, and you know, it's not that big of an issue. I mean, I know we personally run radios in our barn and, try to desensitize the animals to loud noises. And I think with the trains, we'll know the train schedule and, first couple of times we may say, okay, guys, train's coming through, just be prepared. And I don't know, I guess.
Well, you don't know when they're coming, because it's not the same time every day.
It'll be fine. They're not loud.
And then once again, not being around animals or farms or anything, how much of an odor will we have coming from the animals?
None.
So, depending on what we put here, I've not heard any mentions of long-term facilities with horse stables and, we're talking about a one-day show and animals go home. So very little waste. If there's a threshold, and of course, because I'm up here on stage in front of everybody, I can't think of what the threshold is where we would have to have a permit to apply that waste. But there are laws in place for how it has to be handled. But yeah, no, very little. Actually, the animals coming to these shows will be some of the cleanest animals you'll ever see in your life. They get daily baths.
And all I will say about the traffic is that our plan will have to go before a review committee of planners and DOT and firemen before it gets approved. So they will have to come in on ours specifically. I know you were talking earlier about what Reynolds was doing or another street. That's different than what
They're
we would
under
have to
wrap,
do.
they're building under wrap.
That's different than what we would have to do.
Yeah.
Bike trail, bike trail, bike trail. We would love to see a bike trail.
God.
I think that one of the concerns that the two gentlemen that got up and left had that they may not have expressed clearly that I was kind of picking up on. I'm hearing a lot of good things about the extension programs that are coming. Great. The 4-H program's great. The agricultural use program's great. It's the other use that I think they were concerned about. That, okay, if there's a car show, if there's a rodeo, and I'm not talking 4-H rodeo, I'm talking VFW rodeo and Downtown King rodeo is what I think they were having concerns about. And I'm not trying to speak for them, but I think that some of the concern about the hours of operation, if you have a other use for the multicultural use that this young lady was speaking to, I think at that point, if you don't have limitations on the hours of operations, that's when you're going to get into a noise problem. That's when you may get into some of your neighbors around this raising the concerns. I don't think that, for the most part, I'm not picking up a vibe off the room that they have a problem with the extension agent usage or with the 4-H programs or with the agrarian or equestrian programs. I think that some of the concern that I'm picking up, especially from this young lady and the two people that left, is the other use. And unless there's limitations and unless some of that is defined, what kind of groups could be coming in and renting this multi-use facility, will there be limitations on that?
Would that not have to go in front of someone to be pre-approved?
Right.
I mean, that's
Right.
what we have to do with anything anyway.
Right, and they would have to get permits to lease the facility, correct? So that the people that are running the facility would hopefully understand what's coming into the community, correct? And I think that's something that may need to be clarified because I don't think by and large the community has a problem with the equestrian or with the agricultural use and the intent of this facility. I think it's the multicultural other uses that you're worried about coming in, correct? I think that's one of the concerns that I'm kind of picking up. That's all I got. Bike trail, and thank you, I know you got it.
Just to comment on your question, there's several you have made comment, just to kind of echo what Dudley said, what David said, that we're early in this process, so all these comments are great, because as we go, if the community decides they do want it, and again, we don't have a dog in the fight, we're just trying to see what the community's interests are and what they want. So these are good comments that we take to the next level and say, okay, in design, how do we address these things? If there is a livestock show that needs to go late because of judging, is the facility built where sound does not carry outside the facility? Those are all kinds of things that we work through in a planning and designing because some reason or another I turned into an elder statesman with the county. I've been here just about longer than anybody else as far as the manager goes. I got old before I knew it, but I do know in my history here with the county, I don't like to speak for our commissioners, but our commissioners are committed to being good neighbors. Our staff is committed to being good neighbors. So as Dudley said, if there's a noise problem, our commissioners are going to hear about it, and we're going to do something about it, because we pride ourselves on being good neighbors and an attribute to the community wherever we are. So I think that's very important. That's some standards that the county has set, and it's very important. But to answer your question on events, all that is part of the planning process of the event, the nature of the event, whether it be a livestock related or a craft festival, looking at the impacts that it may have, on the surrounding community, the times of day of traffic. All those are logistics that you plan into the event to kind of, I don't know if I answered your question or not, but.
You did, but, and I'm not trying to hold up this young man standing at the front that's waiting to speak to you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
You're younger than your son here, so that's a true statement. An idea that this gentleman was referencing, the noise of the train. They build sound barrier walls along interstates and along freeways all day long. Depending on the cost, that might be a consideration as both a line of sight for animals, if that's a concern, or for noise, okay? Don't know what the cost will be on that, but that might be an idea that, fine, you've got both a sound and sight barrier for animals against the train tracks. Maybe completely out of realm, but realistic, okay? The other thing is, with the multi-use and the multicultural stuff of non-agricultural use, rental of the property or the facility, is that something that has to be approved by someone that is going to run this, okay, fine, we want to rent this facility to bring X, Y, Z, A, B, C in, and we're going to do this, that, and the other, and it comes in and it's not what is advertised, then what happens?
Yeah, we generally do. We talk as our staff and management to say, okay, is this something we want to do? Is this a type of event that we would want to host? Does it fit? That's the whole thing. When you get into the planning of this facility, what actually the size of a facility ends up being, well, there's probably a lot of things that just wouldn't fit and you wouldn't do. And so that's all part of planning and event.
So there could be a situation where somebody comes up and says, hey, I want to rent your facility. No, that doesn't work for this facility, this won't work for this facility, and y'all can say, no, we can't rent you the facility for that.
Yeah, and again, it depends on the design parameters and the operating parameters that we have for the facility. We just know certain things just don't work and don't fit, and some things do. So that's kind of the blend of what you do when you plan one of these facilities.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
I'm Billy Hendricks. We own the farm at the end of Rolling Hill Drive all the way back around the Snyder Farm Road. The farm's been in my family since 1700s. In fact, before the Forsyth and Stokes split. We're all for this. To answer the question about the livestock and the train, I got a cow pasture with horses on both sides of it. They're used to it. It doesn't bother. The noise deal that everybody's complaining about, if I've been all over this property. I've hunted it since I was knee-high to a grasshopper.
Write that down.
And I'm not young, but thank you. Where they're going to put all this at, there's going to be no noise. I mean, the closest residence, Snyder Farm Road, that's mainly where they're going to hear most of the noise from, is a residence on Snyder Farm Road. Rolling Hill Drive, I mean, if you look at the map and go and actually walk in the property down in here, tractor pulls, a loud announcer, they're not going to hear that here in the town of Tobaccoville. It's down in a holler back through there. I mean, there's a ridge on each side of it. I think it's one of the grandest things. I mean, the city of King has been pressuring us. They want to put a sewer treatment plant right there at the end of Snyder Farm Road for the city of King. And they haven't purchased the property, but I mean, that was one of the city of King's proposals for the last 3 years. We've been fighting and arguing with them about putting a sewer treatment plant there. The sewer treatment plant would make a nuisance to the Tobaccoville every foggy morning. I don't know if you've ever been down the Griffin Road down there where the sewer treatment plant is. It's not that great a place. But, I mean, the traffic deal, we got a bypass coming in between Tobaccoville and Old Town, right down here at Bethany. DOTs, they go out of the road. Which one's going to put more traffic? We put 200 houses on this piece of property, 7 o'clock rush hour.
Shoot me now.
And I mean, you know, I run these roads 7 days a week with a farm tractor. I can tell you about the traffic. But what I'm trying to get to, this right here is one of the greatest things that ever come to this town. When you mention agriculture, my son back here is 10 years old. He farms. Y'all see him mowing, raking hay all the way down this side of this road here. This here is a learning facility for the younger kids. It helps get them off the street. All right, 4-H it was talking about. Every kid ought to be in 4-H. Everybody ought to know what it is to raise livestock, where you eat, where your food comes from, how to grow your own garden.
They need something to do.
They do. They definitely need something to do. I mean, we got a park right here, and I hate to say it, but look at the record. I mean, the bathroom right here in this park's been vandalized 3 or 4 times in the past 2 years. And it comes every time that it happens, it's from a younger crowd. And this right here would educate the younger generation to a different experience of life than anything else this town right here's got to offer. We're all for it. If y'all need more land, holler at me. I'll donate some land to them.
Hi, Steve Warren. We live at Odell and Linda Meyer's old place on Doral Drive. In fact, if you look on the map, our house is the one of those 2 ponds up the upper right-hand corner. So my wife and I are 100% for this. We would love to see something like this come in. You know, again, what are the alternatives to this? Houses going in there, right? People are going to eventually, I know the railroad tracks are there. You know, I know it's county land, but it may not be county land forever if it stays vacant. You know, if we keep not letting them build on this and develop it like this, in the future they may, you know, change it, they may sell it, they may exchange it for something else, and then they build houses in there or something. I think this is a great use of this land. I'm one of them that live the closest to it. I'm not worried about noise. Sure, you might hear them a little bit. I'm not worried about it too much, but I really like the educational. My wife's, we've only been here a couple of years, but she's heavily involved in ag extension. We love it. We think it's a great thing. My only concern, another concern of mine, is how do we, with us living so close and other people living bordering on the property, how are people going to know they're leaving the park and they're not going on to private property? We may have answered that before, and I wasn't here the last meeting, so that was one of our concerns. But beyond that, we're pretty much on board with it. So, thank you.
So there will be some fencing.
There will be fencing around?
On the north side in particular.
Okay, perfect. All right, thank you.
And I'm just going to talk to you guys, so my back's not to you up there, but I've been taking some notes and doing a lot of thinking about this, and you know, as a council member, I work for the people, and we want to make everybody happy, although we can't always do that. So I think most of the people are in favor of this, which we certainly don't want to see something else come in that could be something that none of us want to see. But since there's so many concerns about noise and security, like my question to the county would be, would the county consider having a written perpetual agreement with the Village of Tobaccoville as far as what type of events can take place? Like if we're adamantly against a tractor pull, but we're fine with horse shows and the livestock events, you know, 4-H, the gardening and all that, would the county consider having a written perpetual agreement with the Village of Tobaccoville as far as what type of events can take place? I do understand the concern, you know, for noise from the neighbors. And also, I was going to mention maybe some type of fencing to keep people off of private property, because they're probably not going to know once they, you know, reach a certain threshold that they're crossing over to private property. Another question I have for the county would be, Would it be possible to use this facility as an emergency shelter in case of a natural disaster for animals? In case of like a major hoarding case with livestock or equines. I'm part of the North Carolina Animal Response Team, and we go out and get horses that are stuck in ponds or, that are down, things like that. So would it be possible to use that facility as an emergency shelter for animals?
So as the livestock agent, it's my job to work with PR, the Piedmont Emergency Animal Response Team, to find locations to put those animals in case of emergency. So by nature, we are already written into that agreement.
Well, what I'm talking about is the North Carolina Animal Response Team, which is not part of the county, but it's a nonprofit. So we don't actually charge people if they have an animal down to go out. And
PR doesn't either. They're volunteer ran for the most part.
So those are my main concerns. And one is that maybe we can make everybody happy by having this facility, but also having a perpetual agreement with the county as to what type of events can take place. Those were my main concerns.
So, from the general speaks, I don't want to speak out of turn, so I'm a staff person, but we are lodging that there, and we will run up the flagpole.
Yeah, my name is Tommy Donahue. We live on Ridge Road over here, and we do have horses and dogs. I wonder how many people here were against them putting that tobacco plant up there. Because it seems like I hear a lot of worry about traffic. And I really don't see this being a problem with traffic, because I can guarantee 75% of the traffic going to this facility will come off of 52 right up here. Going right by traffic, right by the tobacco plant.
At 4 o'clock.
So I don't see traffic being the problem. I really, it's just an argument I don't understand. The theory about the trains. That train comes by here 2 times a day. If it comes by every day. And aside from that, I'm sure that they're not going to put a riding ring or indoor arena right beside railroad tracks. I mean, that wouldn't be a good idea. I'm sure they're not going to do that. So I don't see the trains being a problem. Horses aren't as spooky as people think, especially horses and livestock, cattle and sheep and goats. They're fairly acclimated to noise because they go to the fair. Fairs are very noisy. You don't see them panicking there. So I don't see trains as a legitimate argument either as to why they shouldn't have this here. The odor, it can't be any worse than all these cars driving up and down the road. I mean, it's going to be way back in there, and it's not like we're putting a hog farm down there where they're going to be spreading manure out on the fields. The county's going to have a dumpster there, or when whatever's going on at whatever event, they'll put it in that dumpster and they'll all leave tobacco there. It'll just go down the road. And be honest with you, Tobaccoville needs something here. This place is really dead. I don't see what a little noise is going to hurt, honestly. It is so dead here. It's unreal. To me, this is a beautiful thing, probably the most beautiful thing that could ever happen to Tobaccoville. It may even improve land prices around here. I don't see it hurting it.
Where could CG go?
The type of people that go to horse shows and cattle shows and sheep shows, those kids aren't troublemakers. So these people worrying about crime, we're not talking about putting a prison down here. We're talking about kids doing something productive, showing cattle, showing sheep, horses, chickens. You know, Tobaccoville, if this went nicely, you never know. This could morph into a little fair here that everyone could enjoy. I don't see anything wrong with this at all. We definitely need something to do in Tobaccoville. Because this park is a park, and that's about all it is. I'm really glad the county has looked at Tobaccoville as an alternative for what these people near Tanglewood did not want. Because I'm really glad they shot themselves in the foot.
They shot us in the foot.
Shot everybody in the foot. I mean, they're telling the county what they can do on the park they already have. It's crazy. But our children need something to do. It's probably the most wholesome thing we could have kids doing. I just don't understand why. And the limitation on the times, I get tired of people wanting to restrict what everyone else wants to do. It's offensive.
Land of the free.
That's right. If someone wants to show dairy cattle till midnight, they should be able to do that. Because I guarantee it ain't no worse than people standing around shooting guns around here. You know? I mean, really, people cry about the noise around here. It is so... I thank you for at least giving some people the opportunity to have something like this. And I really help people come to their senses and see the beauty of having this in Tobaccoville. Forsyth County is really, they're really smiling on Tobaccoville by offering that to us. And if we don't take it, like a few people mentioned, that they could turn into heck, the county might just sell it to a hog farmer and they can just put hogs there.
I got some hogs, y'all want to try it?
There you go. If they don't build this,
In
we
about
can
the
lease
year
it.
to lease at the barn, I'll be happy to take it for like $1,200 a ton. I mean, it makes grass grow real good.
But, yeah, this,
Keep smoking.
I don't some of the objections I've heard are just, I think these people need something to do around here. And I think this is ideal for them. I mean, a craft show, it's not really agricultural, but it's not going to make any noise. I mean, what other, were they thinking of building an amphitheater for some concerts? Even that, this Tobaccoville needs to hear something that's maybe cultural. Thank you for your consideration of Tobaccoville, and hopefully the people here will see it as a blessing and take it for that and vote for it. Thank you.
I just have a general question. We talked about this being the early stages of the discussion, and I'm hearing the pros and the cons, and I'm still in my early development of my opinion. But what is the next phase? What is the timeline? I'd like to know that. Are you going to do some more public forum? Are you going to put out some flyers to the residents? What's going to happen next?
So we're taking the input from these sessions. There's a survey that's online, so we'll collect that. We'll basically look at this meeting. We'll share the outcome of that with the commissioners and kind of let them know the reception that it got and suggestions that people have. Then if we get directed to move forward, then we would probably advertise for an architect at that point. And it probably would be a design-build project, so it would be an architect-contractor combination. And then at that point, we'd share these ideas, and they would come back with an actual schematic of what it could be, where things would be, that kind of thing. And in any event, it's kind of still up to us. Like we said, it's not going to be on the property line. It's not going to be on the property line. So we kind of register everything that people are saying.
Yeah. Let me add, and I think the commitment we would need to this community is make sure that you knew when the county commissioners were taking those actions, and then also when ultimately there'll be, based on this input, a design that we put out and get a price on to build, and we will commit. We will commit to make sure that the village of Tobaccoville, that the community, if you signed up, that you know what that product looks like, and you'll have an opportunity to come to commissioners. If you hate it, you need to come say that. If you like it, you need to come say that. If you love it, you need to come say that. So, everything the county does is in a public session, and we recognize that that this affects this community differently than it does folks who live in Clemens or Kernsville or Walkertown. So we'll commit to that, and so we certainly.
Is it the idea for this to be the new ag location? I'm confused. Half this thing is talking about a park, or are you moving off of Fairchild and coming out here?
So, yes, so the plan that we would take to the board at this site, which is different than what we said at Tanglewood, because at Tanglewood, it was an event center that really was connected to the other event center, the other event activities that happen at Tanglewood. So here, what it is an event center that's tied to Cooperative Extension's office. And if you think about it, you get some economies built out of that, because if you look at the current building that Cooperative Extension in, most of it's classrooms and presentation space. And so that will tie very nicely. It actually takes our dollar on the multi-purpose agricultural event piece and lets us leverage that in a really cool way. So it is Cooperative Extension. It is an event component that's going to be tied much more closely to Cooperative Extension than it would have been at Tanglewood. And then because there's so much open space there, the idea is that there is really opportunities for parks and for trails that can tie into the horse piece of it, and it sort of builds out that vision. I mean, this is a 30-year project.
Oh, okay.
This is a 30-year.
We're not gonna have it next year.
Yeah. Now, well, what we have dollars to do is we earmarked some dollars for Cooperative Extension's movie, and we've earmarked dollars for the ag event piece of it that's part of that. We really don't have any dollars for Parks and Recreation, but you know, what we've seen in our other parks is when the community really loves the thing, it's really easy to go back to the board and say, let's build out the park side of it. That's why parks is so key into this.
Well, tying into phase one, like the ag part of it, then would you do a covered facility? And I don't think we ever need 100 stalls here.
Yeah, you know, I think our sense is, especially construction prices the way they are right now, we would hope you could get a covered horse type facility. That was sort of the vision.
Multi-use, not only for horses.
That's,
Right.
yeah, so are you in favor of a covered?
I am totally in favor of a multi-use. It's not only for horse people. I've got horses, that's my main goal, but that's not fair to the rest of the people.
Right, that's right. And so, yeah.
But outdoor rivalry would be really nice too.
Right. So, but everything that it is what we're gonna glean from what we've heard here. What we have dollars, what we have an obligation to build is an event center, an agricultural event center, and the opportunity is in front of us with Cooperative Extension. We'll still keep a downtown kind of urban Cooperative Extension present for urban ag and some other things that we do. But
the classrooms and everything, just like it used to operate for a bazillion years, it's gonna be the same. The cooking facility and all that stuff.
Yeah, we'd be moving that to this facility, and it'll be operated, you know, Cooperative Extension's gonna have, you know, some event planning responsibilities. You know, what was gonna happen at Tanglewood is Parks would have had the event planning responsibilities, because we already had the infrastructure in place. Here, it'll be Cooperative Extension will have some event planning, so that'll shape the events a little bit, at least in the early days, anyway, and then hopefully we can get some dollars. Mike is good at going out finding grant money all over the place, and so he's pretty good at convincing board members to build parks, and so I do see the rest of that site, you know, build out, and there's a huge opportunity for Tobacco Council members because of the location where your park is to really do some connectivity over the long haul for the two park systems. So there's some really, you know, it's all close together, and it's just some real opportunities that I see to do a trail system, and obviously horse trails can be a component part of it.
I think that facility is too small. I think it needs to be walking and biking.
Okay.
You go to Pilot Mountain Drive.
Sure.
And what I've been reminded to say in response to the question about being there and kind of noticing where the project's going, is that on our website, you know, when there are milestone kind of events, so if we were to put out for an architect, we put that out there that we're doing that now. If we moved on to design development, we put that out there, just so you know, if you go and look at that, you kind of see generally where it was. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see you.
Go ahead. My question, one of those. I'm Chris Shamel. I live on Hollyberry Court. I'm all for the agricultural extension and appreciate what they do. But there's a lot of infrastructure that would have to go in to support this facility. And as Mr. Hendricks said before, the city of King is planning on building a 1.6 million gallon wastewater treatment facility by the water plant in Donahaw. King overtook this facility and uses it for their benefit, charges Tobaccoville twice the rate for water that the City County Utility Commission does. They currently have access through Forsyth County, Forsyth County Utility Commission, and discharge all their wastewater there now. This area is growing. At Wall Scales Road, off of Ridge Road, they're planning on putting in 400 houses on the 541 acres that they have recently cleared in that area. When you add this facility, and basically, when I talked to the folks with the commission here in Forsyth County, and the Winston-Salem Forsyth County Utilities Commission, they had little knowledge of King getting the $21 million grant to build this facility, and King is somewhat strong-arming residents of the corridor along Old Richmond Creek, which is a pristine creek that leads into the Yadkin River. And this causes me a lot of heartache, the fact that this is going on, and how would this facility tie on to handle its infrastructure needs for water and sewer.
So I don't have the exact answer yet, right? So if there's not water and sewer available, if there is water available, we tap onto it. If we had to use our own sewer facilities on site, we'd have to do that. We would be relying on King, is that your question?
Yeah, would you be relying on King for this? Because right now, the village of Tobaccoville had very little knowledge of it. They've been on the down low about this. Now, the agriculture extension offices, I use them greatly. And I appreciate everything they do. Having this type of facility and having an open area where you can handle livestock events would be greatly appreciated. But it needs to be limited somewhat into the type of events that can be there. They need to be agriculture related, beekeeping, equestrian, gardening, all the agricultural extension that does for us as far as your pesticide certifications and so forth. They do a tremendous job doing that, and I appreciate that. But yes, there needs to be some limitations to that, and the people here in the village of Tobaccoville need to have some input on what goes in around them, because where this facility is going, you're in the donut of the village of Tobaccoville.
And, you know, to your point, that's kind of why we're here.
Well, the hours about the treatment
I was
facility.
letting the young gentleman finish his comments there, but, you know, that's why I kind of want to hear from you, both on operations, on where things go, you know, when Rich and that concern, you heard that the last time too. As far as what King is doing, I'm not really familiar with King.
Oh, y'all are in the dark about it now. That's the thing about it.
I've actually, the managers asked me to talk to their manager, and he kind of acted like he was in the dark about it, right? So, you know, I heard it's been going on in conversation for 3 years or so.
Oh, yeah.
I really can't speak to what King is doing. However, you know, if it was already there.
It's not there.
Right.
They don't own the property.
So we're not going to tell them to put it there so we can put our thing there and tap onto it. Now, if it was there, we probably would tap onto it, I presume, if it was available. But I'm not really aware of what King is doing, and apparently they haven't been doing it.
But another thing that I look at is the county's master plan. If everybody's read that, you know, there's talk of, in that master plan, of extending RJR Moore Road into Doral, across the Doral Drive, to take on the Spain-Hour Mill Road, which is going to make that a major truck route to get over to Highway 67. In addition to the Love's truck stop that they're planning on building on RJR Moore Road. But see, this all kind of goes in with this development here for your facility, which I would love to have, but there's a whole lot of baggage that goes along with it that people need to consider.
And I was saying that this would be a less intense use than some other uses that could be in that area.
And I would love to have it if it were presented in that manner and used in that manner.
Sure. And on a daily basis, you're really talking about cooperative extension employees going to and from work during the work day, generally. I guess most events, I would presume, would happen on the weekends, people could go to. But during the week, you're really talking about employees coming and going, people maybe leasing the facility for an animal event perhaps. If they want somebody to come, it probably wouldn't be during the day. I don't think we're gonna be a major contributor to traffic, more so than say the bypass or what Reynolds is doing, or I don't think that would be, this use here would be less intense than some others that could be there. And the board traditionally hasn't been one to take property off the tax roll and just leave it off and just hold on to it and land bank it. So if we decided that we weren't going to do anything there, you know, we already are putting a number of county properties for sale now. You know, because if just take it off the tax roll, however we get it, they've been selling that. And so we probably, I presume, and I'm not a board member, but just kind of the MO is that if it's off the tax roll, and we couldn't use it, you know, now we have a use potentially, which is, it's not really land banking, but it preserves a lot of land.
I understand.
It could be.
The Ag Center would be good use for that land. But the way that it's developed is going to be very important, as long as it sticks closely more to agriculture than anything else. That's all I have to say.
Okay, and I was gonna add full disclosure, so before we got the better, improved access, this really wasn't, a good site for consideration. Where we were with the board, we had actually talked, you know, every piece of property the county has, we go to the board and say, you know, what's the highest best use and what do you wanna do with it? On this particular site, we had actually, the southern site, we were holding, because since the community college is up here and that's where we do law enforcement training, we actually do some search and rescue training currently on that site. There's some things we do that are real low impact but need rural areas, and so they also we're talking about doing some lineman training, because we do lineman training there at the community colleges. So we'd actually identified this to hang on to for that future use. But we had identified this as the potential sale, that it was surplus property, and we were, Kirby Robinson was here, maybe he left, but anyway, Kirby handles all our real estate. So that was sort of on the market when it was really weird, when Tanglewood, right after it closed within a week, that site, we notified that site became available, and so we moved pretty quickly, so we had some options here. And so anyway, we were able to acquire that, which changed the focus of this and actually brought it kind of back in as a potential site for this facility. We've got 4 or 5 other sites that would be our fallback, but this was the best site, given kind of all that was really made available by being able to get that parcel. And then the other thing that I heard from board members when we started talking about it was that whole idea, we really don't have much of a presence in Tobaccoville. And so it gives us, you know, it's just a thing that that was a positive as well. So.
With that phase 2 section there, do you have right of way off of Rolling Hill into that, or how do you get it, access that without crossing?
Yeah, we have really bad access off of it. We don't put, yeah, this site, we really had terrible access on both of it. It was weird that, to be honest with you, I'd just gotten here when the city bought this site, and it was part of all that. But anyways, access off Snyder, and then we got easement access off Rolling Hills, which is not very good.
You got an easement access.
Yeah, and so we would, you know, that's one of that's something that would hinder the development. This is a park site because you either have to get across the railroad tracks or you got to access it some other way, which is why I say, you know, we've got some existing park thoughts about what that could be,
right.
but you need better access. And so, you know, are there partnerships with Tobaccoville, or you know, are there other things that we could do? There's some stuff you'd have to do before you can really seriously consider that.
Well, where you went in and clear cut that property, do you have any plans to do anything else with it, or you just?
Yeah, so we timbered this part of the site. We were not able to timber this site because we didn't have good access. We are going to timber it for construction purposes. We'll probably timber it no matter what, but every time our woodland stewardship program is always to go eradicate, you know, the stuff that's the bad species, you know, kudzu and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
But then we replant, and we replanted tanglewood. We cut the Idols Road property, and actually part of what we do is take part of those proceeds and actually replant.
So that 10 acres right there on the hill of that spot, well, is that gonna be replanted?
Here, right in here.
To your left, at the bottom?
It may have been. Is Kirby here? Did he? Okay. Do you remember? Well, have you? Yeah. It's part of our program. So yeah, we do not let it volunteer back up. We go back and our deal is we replant. And the idea, we do it a little different, couple different ways. You know, normally most folks gonna do it with just a improved loblolly just for sawmill, saw timber stuff. But we're doing one at Horizon. We're actually looking at, do we, you know, one gift. When you really are just working for the people, you know, we can replant hardwoods. You know, we can put in a forest that 200 years from now somebody will go, dang, somebody was thinking about something. And so we'll do some pretty cool stuff. Particularly once if this is the site we end up on, you know, we'll do some kind of real long range stuff because you know, this will be a park 200 years from now.
And that's it. Kind of talking to Kirby, our real estate guy. We talked about leaving a buffer at the top, right? Because there's some concern that was expressed from people about us. Just kind of wagging it out. So as you would have probably seen at Idols Road, perhaps a Tanglewood, we timbered that as well. But we left the buffer along Idols Road, so the people who were there, it wasn't an eyesore to them while it was redeveloping. Now it's about growing back, but we are conscientious of what people were.
The other thing I want to do is dispel any notion that we're in some kind of cahoots with King for a wastewater treatment plant. We are not. There is absolutely no intention to do anything with King on a wastewater treatment plant here. Our site would, if we would have to move forward with some alternate, probably septic, if we can't get, if it's not reasonable cost to get to the sewer line that's across the street, but and I think it will be septic, but yeah, and we would be doing it way before. Yeah, I know so little. Actually, what you said is more than I have ever heard about it. So, yeah, I know nothing about that.
I read on the Tobaccoville website that you all only have set aside $5 million for this project. Is that
Just
true?
to start, that's what passed in the bond.
So,
There's actually, because of the cooperative extension money, it's
2 million, so for that,
2.2, so there's about 7.2.
and the scope of this project is the design and construction of a multi-use agriculture event center within a county park. The project will provide flexible space for housing functions and events, and it's anticipated to include a pre-engineered building. That's one building. Areas for outdoor recreation, parking, road improvements. And you know what road improvements mean? What has streets?
That's
more
actually
traffic.
get into the bond. So like, you gotta get to it. So
Busy,
you gotta,
busy,
got a
busy.
big road to get to it.
Busy, busy, busy.
Yeah, what was, and that
Related
was,
site development.
that was really pre-cooperative extension, so it's all that housed under kind of a cooperative extension.
The multi-use agriculture event center project is in the site selection phase, which you just shared. Forsyth County is evaluating park land that has potential to accommodate the proposed facility and assist in compatible locations. So you all are not just only considering Tobaccoville, you are looking at other locations. Is that right?
Weird. So we had a presentation where we looked at a bunch of locations.
But we are considering this site is the one we are not considering other sites right now other than this one.
this one is not, if we don't do it here, we will regroup and go back to the drawing board.
Addition, North Carolina Cooperative Extension, the outreach arm of North Carolina State College of Agriculture and Environmental Scientists and North Carolina A&T School of Agriculture will come on the site as well, will be located on the site as well. Corporate Extension is a Forsyth County Government department with the following emphasis: sustaining agricultural and forestry, protecting the environment, and youth and family development programs and initiatives. This is a wonderful program, as some of them people stated. But Tobaccoville, this will not only be for Tobaccoville. You guys need to wake up. This will not only be Tobaccoville. It's gonna be so many outsources coming in Tobaccoville. You won't even, they probably take the name Bill off of Tobaccoville.
Thank you.
I just wanted to bring that to our attention because it is a wonderful program. The Tobaccoville is
my name is Lynn Warren. My husband got up a minute ago. We live in the house with the two ponds up there in the right-hand corner. I'm a former master gardener, so I'm only former because we were in a different state before we were in North Carolina. And I'm very familiar with the extension office. I know that the way the extension office works is that, you know, they have these department heads that they're usually, you know, a single person that's in charge of things, and then they have the master gardeners that are strictly volunteers, so totally volunteer program, and you will, yes, you'll have people come in from across the county because they will be coming to volunteer on this property. Say if we put a demonstration garden, or if we have a wildflower summit or things like that, I think it would be really great to have that kind of traffic come in, because it's people who really care. It's people who are giving their time and their effort to be a part of this really neat property that has a lot of potential. And one thing that I was thinking of is that it has the potential to be maybe a location for a farmer's market where we could bring our local farming products and give back. To buy from our local farmers. I would love to go there and get what you all have to offer. If you have honey, you have corn, you have even like, you know, food for animals, livestock. Yes. So we don't have to go over there. I think this would be a great location for that, and would really give back to our local farmers.
Yes.
Hey, I'm Destiny Hampton. I just started a rescue farm off of Ridge Road. Sorry, I'm a little nervous. I didn't plan on speaking. For those of you who, I'm going to turn my back to you guys. For those of you who are a little undecided on this, I really wish that you would think about the kids in this community. When I was 5 years old, I was kidnapped. And for 2 years, I wouldn't go outside and play. In a community barn, I did not own a horse. I did not know anything about horses. The woman let me come up there and clean stalls, and in return, she let me ride a horse. It was the only thing that saved me. It was the only thing that saved me. And these kids today need to be saved. When kids come to my rescue farm, none of them, and I'm talking 6 hours a day, they don't touch their phone. They have chickens, baby ducks, they play with the rescue pig, they're playing with the donkeys, chasing them around. These kids need this. And I understand that it won't just be our community, but who cares if it's not our community? Kids today need this, and if they have a better facility, you already have kids. My stepdaughter used to come up there, but there will be more kids, don't you think, coming to your camps if they had a bigger facility. They need this. So let's not put it in the details of, oh my gosh, I don't want noise or I don't want extra traffic. We can deal with that. We can deal with that. It's not that big of a deal. We really need to think about the kids today in this society. So that's all I wanted to say.
So I've grown up in Tobaccoville. I've lived here my whole life. I live about
less than 2 miles from here. And growing up, I went to the county 4-H office one time. And it was a little scary, I have to say, because where it's at. And like Rebecca said earlier, it's not something I want to take my child to. I've got a 2-year-old son, and I'm super excited about the possibilities of having something wonderful like this that I wish was available when I was a child, just minutes from my house. So I'm very excited about this opportunity and glad that Tobaccoville is being considered.
Sorry, I know I spoke before, but I do have a question. If this, I just wanted to get a clarification. If you guys don't do this with this land, then Forsyth County could sell it, correct?
Yes.
And if Forsyth County sells it, does Tobaccoville have any control over what that could be? None, right? So if we don't do this, and it's not going to be used and it's sold, it could be 200 houses. It could be a train depot. Right? I mean, who knows what it could be? Right? So there's a highway, I mean, there's a highway coming in 2 miles down the road. You don't think that this could be some sort of staging ground for another Petco or something else? So,
I don't fear to be, I don't want you to think that if you don't want it here, it's gonna be something terrible. But I got it, I mean, you're exactly.
I'm not saying it will be terrible. I'm just saying, look, this is a fantastic.
It could be better than that. This is a guarantee it don't get no worse.
Right.
Come on, look at it. I mean, the county's not in the business to invest in land.
Right,
So
that is absolutely.
They're gonna sell the land.
You know, probably what would happen is we would hang on to it for a little bit to try to understand if the community doesn't want this, is there some other county thing that does make sense here? At some point in time, when you sort of exhaust that, you say, well, you know, yeah, we need to put it back on the tax rolls. And then you know, you got, again, 7 county commissioners who care deeply about this community making a decision. They don't want to, you know, whenever they sell land, they always take into account what, you know, they don't want to be responsible for something terrible being there. So I appreciate where you are. I wouldn't want fear to be
buy that parcel land?
Why did we buy that parcel
Why
land?
did we buy it?
We actually did not buy that parcel land. That land was bought by the city of Winston-Salem. I got here in '06, and there was this project underway where we were building law enforcement and fire training facilities. You know, they were sort of, it was a joint thing between the city council and county commission, and we ended up thinking it was too expensive, not the right site. The city of Winston went on and bought it. They took the lead on the firearm training facility. We took the lead on the fire training facility. Actually, the transportation facility on number 8, where Forsyth Tech is, was kind of in the mix there too. But you know, we took the lead on fire training facility, went up to King and built the training tower there and the facility there, finished that out. The city of Winston realized pretty quickly, I mean, I had just gotten here, so I was late in the conversation, but, you know, the idea of access was terrible, a firearm training facility, in order to train the number of officers the city of Winston has and the sheriff and KPD have, they would have to operate some crazy times, and when you really look at law enforcement certification for firearms, most everything they can be done in an indoor facility that you can run 24/7. And so all of that added up, they walked away from that site. So walked away from it. The city owned it, we didn't. And they went down to Liberty Street and built the firearm training facility there. They've got a little bit, you know, there's a few guys that got to get trained with sniper stuff, but they can go to, you know, Blackwater, whatever it is. There's so few of those guys, they can go to another facility. So we finished the fire training facility. They finished the Liberty Street facility. We entered an interlocal agreement with them, we added up what the county spent and what they spent, and they owed us about $1 million. And to be honest with you, it didn't make any sense for the city of Winston to own that property. We were a better owner of it. And I just said to the city manager, tell you what, you give us the land and we'll settle up. And so we settled up those two cooperative agreements with us ending up with this property. And that's how we got it. And I don't know if anybody was around, at the time, the property was going to require rezoning to turn it into a final training facility. And, powers that be around, it was pretty clear there would have been a room full of people from Tobaccoville at that meeting, not too happy about a firearm training facility down there. And I think the city of Winston figured that one out. So.
Made some good noise too.
Yeah. It was a bad site. I walked in and I thought it was a crazy site to try to do that. I thought it was crazy to try to build one outside because, so much leads and maybe you create an environmental issue that when you do that, and that you got to clean up. So it just was, one of those things that just kind of turned out. It just turned out after we got through with both projects, it was about $1 million. We said, we'll take the asset, and so the city of Winston was pleased by that, and the partnership's been great because we got a partnership now, training firefighters and EMTs and law enforcement officers, and it's worked out pretty good.
What are the future phase 2 park spaces, what all that, what do they have in mind for that?
For phase 2 on this site?
Yes, for future phase 2 park space, which is on this side of the railroad track.
Yeah. I think everything that y'all said. I mean, I think it's, where there's, is that fair?
Parks, kind of amenities. So, if you've been to a typical county park, you've got a shelter, and the shelter has a sand pit for volleyball, and it has horseshoe pit, walking trails, things that you see at county parks for the park functions. That's basically what we're talking about. And there's a lake.
So they intend on putting all the agricultural amenities on the other side of the track and not on this side, is that correct?
So if there was room, there could be a shelter there too. Because
there's no design. Yeah. So
I'm not sure what your land mass or acreage is here, but it seems like you're cramming a lot in that one corner.
186 total. And so it looks like the track's kind of, bisected, so it's roughly half and half.
And it seems like they would want to spread that out, being that they have the land to do so.
And the challenge is that the southern part doesn't have good access until we could maybe get an easement from the railroad to cross the railroad tracks, either with the bridge or to go under it.
Or get better access off Rolling Hills, which is probably the most feasible way to get it. So,
because we really prefer one entrance to the park just for control of who's coming in and out, as opposed to having two major entrances that you have to then staff and take care of.
I just wondered if it seems like they would want to spread this out, maybe that they have so much acreage.
That would be ideal.
Even better.
We could definitely do more. We could do more.
I like to see a farm museum, if there's any way that can be worked into the plan. I mean, kids today don't know where stuff comes from, they think it comes from food line and lettuce comes out of closed sections.
that's kind of what property spending is. You go in there, it's sort of a farm, all this.
Some type of museum there, I mean, kind of step-by-step pictures on the wall, plant department, so to speak. Like I said, I think everybody already understands like it could be a whole lot worse. I mean, traffic-wise, housing development, as I said, correctional facility.
We wouldn't do that to you.
It's called taxes, where they get the most money at. It's all about money.
Anybody else? Yes, sir.
Regarding the access and egress, have you actually determined from the fire department
So, haven't designed, so no. If they tell us that there needs to be a second, we figure that out, but we haven't had that conversation with them yet, because they haven't had design to look at. So we will lodge that.
Because it seems like they're having some issues with primary issues.
Well, we don't anymore. So now we do have access off of the route that we bought. It's pretty substantial now.
How many parking spots are in
We don't know yet. It's where our money will take us. And then really the size of the facility, which I think will be modest, with a $7.2 million budget at the moment, it'll be proportional.
And what would the zoning be?
What would the zoning be? I think it's AG now, which would allow for park uses. So I don't think we have to rezone it.
So it would stay AG?
Yeah, we would have to rezone it.
You would have to?
We wouldn't have to rezone it.
Okay, regarding access, would it be preferable to means of access, even if there were two or more coming off the primary road rather than the secondary roads like Rolling Hill?
I'm sorry, say that again?
I'm being a little selfish because I live in that area, but means of access to the property, could it be kept on the primary road like Doral rather than going to the secondary roads? Because you're gonna start pumping traffic into neighborhoods essentially.
So our intention is to access it from the route.
Now, we're talking about the southern properties, there's a lot of discussion about using the rolling.
So in the long term, once to access the southern piece, if we could, would be to somehow have an easement across the railroad track, so you'd have one park entrance. We don't like to have two park entrances, because for staff controls, staff for staffing, we want one entrance. And so that would be the Doral Drive. To get to the southern part for park uses, we basically would need an easement across the railroad track. And we don't have that at the moment.
Right. So if that's done right, it could even be an attraction, crossing the railroad tracks, right? So, I think, another issue was, because I've seen this happen in other places, is the lighting. So you're gonna have a rather large parking area, for instance, the way you light that parking lot matters. I consider myself an amateur astronomer. So light pollution matters to me. So it would be really nice if that was kept under consideration. And finally, I think that ideally it would remain a natural area with mature trees. But that's not going to happen. It's unrealistic. So in my opinion, this is a lesser of evils. I would be happy to see it rather than a development, housing development. But I'd also like to see it be a good neighbor, and that would be absolutely part of the mind. I don't want to see the light or hear it or whatever reason, of course. But good luck, and I hope you're successful.
Thanks.
I think the lighting is actually part of our development regs now. We did that a couple of years ago that required the down lighting that doesn't project light. So I am pretty sure that would actually be required. But also, I also would envision, at least in the early phases of this, any large parking areas would probably wouldn't be paved, at least initially. We're just not having much, the dollars aren't gonna go that far. So there'll be some overflow parking kind of arrangements sort of thing.
Parking lighting locally here, does it shut off at night or does it stay on continuously?
This would not stay on all the time. For large parking areas. Because I envision the site being closed when nobody's there. So.
I want to just say one thing, and I'm going to speak to you on behalf of a Forsyth County resident, because this is Forsyth County. Yes, I'm on the council with Lord Shore, but I'm here at a different angle from this. I am wanting to speak to you as a Forsyth County resident. If you're over 67 and you've lived here all your life, then you've lived here longer than I have. I went to NC State University and majored in Parks and Recreation Administration. I came home and started to be in photography, and then I became a master gardener also. And worked with that extension agency to help plant a bunch of fruit trees and other things up here that the guy came out from the agency and looked at me and said, "Who's helping you all this?" I said, "Well, we adopted 7 kids, so they're gonna help me with all this." It didn't happen, okay? So the trees are all gone now. But if you didn't hear what he said, I'm glad the gentleman brought it up. It can be sold now that they've got the access there. Also, Parks and Recreation is all about the children. And we need more things like that. And I've agreed, I've seen the 4-H clubs and the 4-H things keep kids out of trouble. And so that was a property actually I wanted to buy when I got out of college. It was Jack Dad that originally owned it. It was a cousin of my dad's. But the price tag he had on it was much more than I could ever dreamed of, because it had a beautiful view of Pilot Mountain back in the background. So I've run all over that property. I probably didn't hunt as much as Billy did on it, but I did hunt on that property too. Fish down in a little fish pond. We had our 6th grade little outing down there at that fish pond. I got permission to do it. So I'd love to see this come to this area here. And I'm speaking as a Forsyth County resident, not as a village council member. And I can tell you this, there is nothing in this world that you can't justify or rationalize for your decision on what you decide. And if you look hard enough, you can even find scripture to support it. But do realize this is for the children, for the kids, and for the community. I don't care who comes in here from it, from wherever they're coming in to explore and do something that is nice and good. We're not talking about people coming in here and just raising the cane that we don't need to be raised anymore, okay? So really, whatever you do, I hope you're all for it too.
Thank y'all for coming.
I appreciate you. Bike trails, bike trails, bike trails.
You're all, I trust you all.
My wife does tell me like one thing, remember that. It's almost 8 o'clock, so we'll still stick around a little bit if somebody wants to talk to us individually. And again, unless somebody else has a comment. Thank you all for coming. And check our website and we'll put up